Hi guys, you're back with Juzzy. I've recently been doing some mods to my Honda Rebel 500, and in response to the mods that I've posted either on Instagram or on my YouTube, people have been coming back to me saying, oh, please do a walk around feature of your bike so that we can have a look at all the mods in one video and talk about what the future mods are that are planned to come. And I thought, okay, I'll leave that to a point in time where perhaps I've finished the bike. However, for the last couple of weeks, Brisbane, Australia has been sort of inundated with rain, and today is like the first day where there's actually been a blue sky. So I have done another mod recently to my bike, which I'm about to post a video for, but I just haven't had a chance to do it yet, and that is the installation of some Diablo rear shocks for the Honda Rebel 500. So for all those guys out there that have asked me and sent me messages, I'd like to thank you very much for your support. When I first bought this bike, I don't know, around about a month or so ago, I bought it brand new from a Honda dealership called Team Moto in Slacks Creek of Brisbane, which is on the south side of Brisbane. And yeah, I just started off as a person that wanted to get a quicker means to get to work by sort of sliding through traffic and riding on the highway shoulder, because lane splitting and so forth is legal in Queensland, Australia. And whilst the Evo is certainly quick, it runs 11.5 at 120 miles per hour on the quarter. It certainly can't do that when I'm held up in traffic. So I was looking for a quick way to get to work. And the way for me to do that was to buy a reliable commuter. And so I didn't know anything really about bikes at that stage. I knew that I didn't want to buy a sports bike. I'm 44 years old, and I wanted to buy a bike that was relaxing to ride, but probably most important for me at 170 centimeters tall, without shoes on, is that I wanted to buy a bike that was comfortable, that I could put my feet down without having to continuously, use my toes, which I sort of did when I had a Yamaha R6 somewhere around 10 years ago. So I really wanted a easy to ride bike. I probably wanted a Honda more than anything, even though I'd had a Yamaha before. There was one problem I had with that bike, which sort of put me off the Yamaha brand, but I knew just as well as everyone does that Honda is a pretty reliable brand, and I didn't have any concerns that components or parts of the bike were coming from different countries, so e.g. Thailand or Vietnam, etc., that I've seen on the parts that I've removed and replaced on the bike already. So that didn't bother me at all, just so long as I could get a warranty and it was a Honda, and that I could buy it from a local dealership and I didn't have to get it shipped interstate, etc. They were the keen things. So I didn't really need a fast bike. I really just wanted a bike that was popular, was easy to mod, because I just can't help myself with mods, and something that was going to be easy to ride. And so I, for a short while, had looked at the Rebel 1100, but I thought, let's have a look at more videos and just get a feel for what people are saying. And a lot of people seem to suggest that unless you really were a big guy, then the Rebel 500 was going to be adequate power for most people. So it's pretty good on fuel economy. I have only ever put petrol in this bike once, and just to show you the amount of Ks I've done, it's not very much. So right now it's 171 kilometers. So I picked it up with 3 kilometers on it. It was assembled at Team Moto Slacks Creek. I picked it up the very next day. I was fortunate enough to come across one. As you all know, they're very hard to come by, and the used market is so expensive for what they are. I really wanted a 2022 Rebel Special Edition, which had the blacked out forks, the gators, and yeah, it basically had it was a similar appearance to previous model bikes, but the newer models have the LED headlight, and otherwise they were much the same. So this is a special edition. It has ABS and the blacked out pieces as mentioned. So I knew I wasn't going to keep the bike for very long, and I thought, well, I'd love to look at mods for it. And I actually bought a lot of my mods before I bought the bike. So I've still got parts here at home, which I'd like to install. And so, yeah, I thought I'd talk about what I've put in so far in one video and talk about it as quickly as I can. So I know that I don't talk the quickest in my videos, and I probably sound like an old man. In fact, I watched them and I just sort of cringe at how bad they sound. There's no fancy video effects. There's probably one or two songs in some of my videos, but there's nothing fancy. So if you have loved this content, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for supporting me. And the only reason why I sort of share these mods is because I like to help other people to get to where I am with the bike. So basically, we are looking at a completely stock Honda Rebel purchased from factory, which has got the following mods. Now, it's got lots of mods from a company called K-Speed, and they have a branded parts division, I guess you could call it, called Diablo. And I've bought all genuine Diablo parts except for a few things. A few things I was able to get away with, which I've clearly seen are on AliExpress, and obviously they've had some contractual arrangement with someone somewhere in Asia to make these parts, and then somehow someone in China has got them and they've made some replicas. So I'll start off with the replica things, which I have had no issue with. The first thing is the rear indicators and the brackets, so they're easy to find, they're not expensive. I've also installed the bike stand here, so it just gives you a slight little bit of height so that when you put the bike on a stand, it's got not quite as much tilt. Another thing I installed were these footrest covers. So the footrest still folds up in the same way, and you remove a rubber insert for the factory footrest, and then you put this on and you bolt it in. There's a video for every single mod on this bike. If you subscribe now, you'll be able to see all the videos in my history. In terms of other K-Speed things, no, I think that was actually it. That's all I bought that was non-genuine. So I might just talk about the genuine parts I've bought now. So I purchased this tank cover. So I've actually had a couple of people ask me how much does this larger tank hold, and it's actually the factory tank. So this is actually cover. It's a plastic cover that you put on top of the factory tank. So the factory tank has about 11 litres or so of fuel capacity. Nothing changes with the pumps, nothing like that. It's simply just 3 pieces of plastic that get bolted together and you pop it over the top of your tank. Looks really cool, and the reason why you'll get this is because you're wanting to make the bike have a much tougher appearance. And I've always thought that this part particularly here just sort of looks like a exoskeleton. So yeah, I was born in the late 1970s, and for me, when I look at this, I actually think of the old Skeletor, if you remember from the cartoon days. So basically, the other K-Speed mods I have purchased is the side engine covers. So there's an engine cover here. All it is just taped on. There's nothing fancy about it. I'm sort of in two minds about getting this one because I do like the slim sort of waist look of the bike, but you can get a piece which is sort of triangulated and just accentuates the borders of this piece here. I then also purchased a non-genuine, so this is not a Diablo part, but I don't even think the genuine Diablo part has Diablo branding on this radiator cover. So yeah, these are dime a dozen on AliExpress, and again there's a link for that in one of my videos. I also bought this front engine cover, and I've done a couple of videos for mine and my friend's bike, and the distinguishment between this and non-genuine ones is that the genuine one comes with the heat reflective tape, and it comes with a bracket to space out the fairing from the radiator hose and the exhaust manifold on this side of the bike. So now we're moving up here to the front, and I'm still yet to do the front indicator installs. I've actually got them. They're just a larger version of the mini bullets that I've got on the rear, so they look black and look exactly like that, but they're about yay big. Still not as big as the factory front indicators, but yeah, it's going to look a lot better than that. So then I've actually installed the Rebel drag bar. So basically that just involved removing the top caps, taking off the factory bar, undoing the controls, splitting the levers, etc., so that I can reuse the throttle, the OEM throttle tube that sits underneath here, underneath the grip. So yeah, I bought the grips, I bought the mirrors. So the mirrors I think the bike looks so cool with the mirrors down. And a lot of people comment that they really hate the look of, they hated the experience of riding with downswept mirrors. And the reason why I don't mind it is because I'm not the tallest guy on the planet. So at 170 centimeters, I'm not really sitting too tall on the bike. And so for me, when I'm sort of sitting, I'm sitting at, and I'll put the phone right at my nose height. I'm sitting at this height, and so it's not far to look down. So it's just like that. Whereas some people which are probably more like this height, which are like 180 centimeters, they've got to look down that far. So I can definitely understand that. So really, having downswept mirrors is a subjective thing. So if you're a short ass like me, or under 170, you're not going to be looking down too much, and it's not going to cause you any issues. I have previously commented about the shape though. So there are some mirrors you can get which are sort of that shape, and it would mean that you could tilt the mirror and just see a lot more. And I have thought about changing that, but yeah, I still have not been able to ride the bike due to like a week of rain. So when it rains, it's Evo duties. When it doesn't rain, it's a good day like this, or I'm working from home. So yeah, I really like the Rebel drag bar. It doesn't have that much angle difference to the factory bar. It's just that it doesn't have the V shape here. And so you do sit slightly more forward, but not a lot. You can buy risers which will work with the drag bar, but ultimately, I think I just got caught up in people's comments before buying the bike. And I just thought, oh yeah, people would just naturally think that it's going to be, you know, really hands out sort of Harley Davidson riding sort of style, etc. But actually, it's pretty damn normal, and I've just found it really easy to steer. And in combination with this tank cover, it's only just touching the corner of a button, and that could be just simply because I've just been a millimeter or two off once I've put the tank cover on. It's honestly, it's of no concern whatsoever. So I also bought the genuine power steering reservoir cap that goes on top of here. So that was very easy. It was just 2 bolts on and off. But I probably would say that one of the best feels I've got from the bike is by replacing the levers. So these levers are adjustable. And as you can see, I've got it on one, which is as close as it can go. But it goes out to 5. So if you've got a large hand, that could be quite helpful. But I most like that the lever, I can adjust the length because it's a 3-piece lever, and it doesn't go out past the actual grips at all. So really good on both sides. Same thing, it's adjustable there as well. So I have actually purchased 2 and installed 2 headlight covers, or headlight cowls, C-O-W-L-S as they're described. And I actually like this one a little bit better personally. I did used to have one, which I haven't sold yet, which was actually a kind of a fatter design, like a wider one. And I thought that when I didn't have the bike, that would really suit the wide front engine guard. But yeah, I've actually just purchased this other one, which is a taller design. It uses a different bracket, but it also comes with a rubber insert here. Now, to be honest with you, when I had the previous headlight cover, I couldn't tell the difference between that and this one. So this rubber insert makes no difference to the amount of air that's coming up towards your chest or your head. Honestly, at 170 centimeters, I ride on the freeway and don't have any issue at all with wind knocking me about. And I think probably more than anything, one of my future mods might actually cause an issue, but I'll see what it's like when I install it. And by that, what I'm talking about is some aftermarket wheel covers. So what I think really makes the bike look super gangster is by installing wheel covers. You can buy them from K-Speed. I did actually purchase those off AliExpress. Now my luck with AliExpress hasn't been that great. on some things, but on others, as I mentioned, the non-genuine Diablo parts, it's been perfectly fine. But for my friend, it hasn't been really good with the front engine cover, so I'm 50-50 on that. If it doesn't work out, I'll just simply buy the real thing, and I know that it will work properly. So yeah, when I'm riding the bike, I actually place my Samsung S22 Plus in this location here. And I'm actually recording on it right now, but it's basically got a quad lock case on the back of the phone. And so it's got a mount that actually clips into this area, and then it's secure. The best part about it is that I installed the factory wiring loom, which is available for, I think it's 21 models and up, which is one of my first videos that teed into the harness underneath this cluster. And then I was simply just able to run a USB cord here. One thing I really hate about it, though, and I'm waiting for it to arrive, is a right-angled USB-A to USB-C connector. So that way it won't be sort of standing up like this. I just hate that stands up. So that's on the way, and it's going to be nice and short cable and just, yeah, quite hidden. All right, so another recent mod I've done is I've put some smoked tint on the reflector. So that was just to make it just a sort of a deeper, darker sort of orange color. Because I just found from factory that the orange was so bright for my eyes. And I did put a poll up recently on my Instagram just asking if people liked the orange or a white one, which I had purchased. And people were actually locked in. It was 50-50. I think there was 7 votes for orange, 7 votes for white. So ultimately, it doesn't match the white front indicator, but I think it's going to be okay with the larger bullet style indicator that I'm going to put on the bike. So for now, I am actually leaving it orange, but when I get the indicators on, I may sway my own vote. What I really wanted with the bike was the ability to keep some bandages and maybe a drink or some tools. Now, if you don't know, underneath your factory seat, the seat holds like a screwdriver and a spanner and I think an Allen key, if I recall. Can't remember. If not, there'll be an Allen key behind one of these covers, which I don't want to remove because a lot of people say that once you remove it, it is easy to fall off and then it's hard to buy it apart from Honda because of global supply chain issues. But if you don't want to rely on the cheap set of tools that they provide underneath the seat, then you'd be looking at some alternative storage. So I really didn't like the look personally of large saddlebags. I don't want that sort of police bike look, etc. Or at least that's what our bikes have here in Queensland, Australia. So I wanted something slimline like this. If you look at it from the front, you can barely even realize or recognize that it's there. But it looks really slimline. It's a genuine leather bag. And I've got an install video for that with the link as well. So yeah, it's simply just uses leather straps on the back with a buckle. So there's got 2 on the top and there's 1 on the bottom on the swing arm. And it doesn't go anywhere near the chain, which is great. So it's just safe, looks great. I'm really happy with that one. Now, looking at this side, okay, so we've got the exhaust. So this exhaust is branded Akrapovic, but it definitely is not one. It is the usual sort of twin pipe setup that you would see on Diablo exhausts or all over eBay and AliExpress. And the reason why it's popular is because it actually sounds really good. Even with a silencer inside, I've been really happy. I did have to modify it in order to fit. So again, I've got a video about that. But it just simply has a mid pipe here, and then you've got the last bit of pipe with the twin pipes exiting. This particular one I've got came with 2 removable silencers right here. And there is actually a silencer which I've got installed in the middle, but I'm actually thinking to take that out. When I first got the bike, I thought, oh yeah, I'd like to keep it just medium sounding, but the more I ride, I think I just want to have it as loud as it can go. There's a little crow outside, so it's a bit noisy today. But yeah, that sort of covers those mods. Now we're looking at the frame sliders. So I've just actually had delivery 1 week ago or so of some forward controls. So that's where you actually move your foot controls forward, I think about 13 centimeters or so, and slightly up. And that's just so that your feet just have a more sort of relaxed riding position. Now, particularly for larger people, that's great, but it also just gives you that look of what I guess other sorts of cruiser owners have, rather than just sort of having your feet in the middle. So I'm looking forward to installing that. It looks like it would take maybe 1 to 2 hours to do, and that will be one of my upcoming videos soon. Unfortunately though, the one that I've purchased is not compatible with frame sliders. So basically, because your foot moves forward, there's potential for this to be in a way, and it probably is. So that might be something that pops up in the future, but we'll see. But for right now, the frame slider is in there. It connects to the bottom of the frame. It was super easy to install, and it was just something that I wanted to have installed so that if I drop the bike, I do less damage to the bike, hopefully, overall. It's a Delrin sort of plastic, nylon, whatever it is, that is, yeah, basically just trying to reduce downtime if something does go wrong one day. Another mod which is hard to see, underneath here, right there, is the Oxford foghorn. Now, I honestly wasn't that impressed with the installation of that part. It's not meant for this bike, but yeah, it wasn't drastically different to the factory horn. And yeah, I shoved the video up for people to have a look at, because, you know, people might buy a horn that's actually even better than this. It was there was a few guys that actually said it was super good to install, but for me it was more of a tone, and the actual loudness was much the same. So, but it was installed though. It does count as a mod. So I have a couple of mods to do. As I said, I'm going to be installing the aftermarket wheel covers, and I've just finished installing the shocks on the rear of this bike. Now, what I don't like about the bike is that it's got this gap on the rear. A lot of people will be okay with that. I'd sort of prefer for it to be a little bit lower. The good thing is that when you're riding, the gap is lower, but I still wanted it to be lower and not necessarily have no gap, but just to have a shorter gap. So I actually purchased these Diablo coils, these shocks recently, and on the 22, the factory shock is around about 31-32 centimeters, whereas this one that I've purchased is 30 centimeters, and then K-Speed sells a 28 centimeter version as well. And I'd reached out to K-Speed after installing this because I sort of felt that the website didn't really give a good enough description about it. Just knowing from measuring it that it was shorter, I expected that the ride height would have dropped, but this particular one is not designed for that. So this one is just designed to reduce the travel spring-wise. It still has the 5 adjustable positions here, and they do give you a spanner. However, only the 28 centimeters, so the one that's 2 centimeters shorter than this, actually drops the bike. I've had a response from the guys at K-Speed just stating that that sort of suspension is really more for decorative purposes, because when you get to 28 centimeters in total length, the amount of, what's the right word, travel in the suspension is just not there. So because the bike is low, even at the factory shock position, the factory shocks still can be a bit firm as soon as you put it to, say, the 3rd position. And so therefore a lot of guys who are way heavier than me at 73 odd kilograms, they're actually getting sore backsides from sitting on here, and then they're looking at actually replacing the seat. Whereas what you probably could do to be better will be to replace the shocks with a much higher quality version. And so, yeah, it looks like I'm not going to be able to get a discount or be able to return these shocks, unfortunately. So, yeah, it's a bit of bad on my half from not sort of investigating whether these were really what I wanted, but it wasn't what I sort of guessed. And so now I'm just basically, these shocks are going to be suitable for someone that's much heavier than me. I'd probably say more like 90 plus kilograms who is on a Rebel 500. But if not, you could actually consider what I'm doing, which is to look at now purchasing some Öhlins ones, because I have found a Rebel 500 owner who has them installed on her bike, and her bike looks significantly lower. And so, yeah, I haven't really known if that's really a situation where she's got it on a very soft setting. So when that owner sits on the bike's a lot lower. But even when she's not sitting on the bike is, it just looks significantly lower than having this gap here. What I think may also adjust or change the look of the rear of the bike is the actual rear fender. Some owners may have adjusted this bracket so that this part sits down lower, but there's no way to adjust the K-Speed one from factory unless somehow you re-drill it, or you don't do one of the bolts up here, and so that it just sort of tilts forward, but then you'd have a gap here. So it looks like really the best way to go about it is to change the suspension. So I haven't been recommended by K-Speed to install the 28cm shocks because they are super firm and I'm probably going to end up destroying my back. So what I think I will do is probably bite the bullet, purchase the genuine Öhlins ones. I'm not sure where from. Maybe one of you guys have been keeping an eye out and been thinking about it as well. But I'm probably going to go that route. Probably as now as one of my last mods. Yeah, so I've got the side mount license plate here with an extendable bracket arm, which I've purchased from AliExpress. The installation for this part is actually in the video I did for the K-Speed rear fender. So a couple of guys have reached out saying, hey, where's the install for that? That's where it is. I didn't purchase the aftermarket chain cover that K-Speed sells because it's got holes in it, and I can understand they're trying to make it look cool, but to me, I don't think that stands out as something that's screaming me out in terms of, hey, you need to replace me because it looks silly. I think it just looks completely fine. Right guys, so I think that I have covered everything there. The only other mod then, which I'm due to do, is that when I put the front wheel cover on, I do have a Diablo short front fender, which probably is about to there, and that's going to make the bike look a lot cooler on the front as well. So do you guys have any other recommendations for me? I live in Brisbane, Australia, and it's a pretty warm climate, and we are now just moving into sort of summer. So whilst the rest of the world's putting their bikes away for winter, we are really opening up to riding season. So I'm super looking forward to that. But if you've got some suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Any sort of feedback, and as you'll see in my comments on my videos and Instagram, I reply to everyone. If I've still got this bike in winter of next year, I am thinking about installing some Oxford grip warmers, but I've also sort of considered putting in some wind deflectors that mount to here, and then they just have a shield here, which you can get in black. So yeah, I'm not too sure. The cheapest option is definitely to get the deflectors, but I'm not quite sure how to look when the bike looks as cool as this. So I really enjoy riding this bike, and soon I'm going to have no more mods to install, and I'm just going to start moving to taking photos of the bike outside, or actually just, doing some point of view videos. So yeah, I might do a video of my riding gear, showing my jacket and all the stuff I bought from WeBike Japan. Got my favorite riding gloves from 10 years still, which are really good. But yeah, I will touch on that video a little bit later. Alright guys, I've really enjoyed talking about this video, and as you can see, there's not many more mods to go. So I hope that you have subscribed. I'm nearly at 1,000 subscribers. Thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in for the bike content. I will be doing an update video on the Evo. For all the Evo guys, if there's anyone watching this video, which is predominantly about my bike, I will be returning to the track not too far from now to have another attempt at breaking my own record for the third time. So thanks for watching guys and tuning in. I've enjoyed bringing these updates to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.